Chatfuel School is now in session. Welcome to our live 1-hour class every Wednesday, where the Chatfuel team and the top experts in the industry will cover the most important topics you need to know as a chatbot builder and marketer. I'm Andrew, Chatfuel's head of video production.
And I'm Jelena, Chatfuel's key account manager.
So my hair was getting really long, like really long, right? I needed to get a haircut. And so I'm the typical millennial. I prefer chatting and texting, messaging rather than picking up the phone. And so what I decided to do was go to my local barbershop's Facebook page, send them a message saying, hey, I'd like to schedule an appointment for this Monday at noon. Can you help me out? Unfortunately, I waited some more, kept waiting, and let's just say even to this day, I have not received a response. Radio silence. Honestly, I think a fax message would have reached them faster. So what did this mean? Well, in the meantime, I had to reach out to another barbershop to schedule my appointment. And as a result, that original barbershop that I reached out to, that business lost a sale, right? It was a lost sales opportunity due to that business being unresponsive. And it's unfortunate, but it doesn't have to be this way, thankfully. Obviously, many of you know what Chatfuel is already. You can use Chatfuel to automate your inbox, but there's also another tool that we'll be talking about extensively today called Janus that allows you to make your chatbot smarter and turn questions into commerce so that you don't encounter this problem in your own business. So that being said, we're really excited to be chatting with our special guest today. But before I introduce him, Jelena, I know you have a question for our audience.
Yes, because this is not a regular classroom. This is not just an ordinary class. Blankets are allowed, snacks are allowed, coffee is allowed. I know I would be eating some popcorn if I didn't have to talk. But I'm sticking with my oat milk coffee for now. So guys, feel free to tell us in the chat what you're drinking, what you're snacking on. Even if it's something harder, we're not going to judge, if it's not coffee or tea.
No judgment at all. Last night, I have to say, obviously I can't eat snacks right now, but last night I was eating pretzels, haven't had them in a while, and 10 out of 10. So while we wait for people to comment what they're eating, we'll talk a little bit about Josh. We have 3 fun facts that I think are, a different way to introduce a guest. Obviously, chatbots and AI, NLP, which we'll be talking about later, are a big part, of what Josh does. But our special guest today is Josh Barkin. He is the co-founder of Janis.AI, which again, we'll be talking about later. But the 3 fun facts that are completely unrelated to Messenger about him are the following. So the first one is that Josh here plays in a classic rock tribute band, and he performs in front of thousands of people. So of course, he's no stranger to large audiences. Secondly, he developed and built a while ago an iPhone app designed for aspiring musicians and rappers. And as part of that app that he built, he was actually able to connect one of those users with Tupac's former record label and basically got that user of his app a deal with them, which is remarkable. And then finally, I think this is by far the most interesting fact about Josh, is that when he was just 8 years old, yes, 8 years old, he managed to find himself on the bench of Paul McCartney's piano, playing on that piano the hit song Yesterday. And not only that, as if that's not crazy enough, that song that he was playing was also broadcast globally around the world on the BBC. So Josh, before we dive into all the technical side of things with chatbots and messenger strategy, you have to tell us just briefly this story of how you found yourself playing Paul McCartney's piano.
So thanks for the introduction. Yeah, so I was 8 years old, and I was in London, England with my family on vacation, and we were just traveling around and touring the city, and we stumbled on a Christie's auction. So you're familiar with the famous auction house Christie's. So we walked in, and it happened to just be the first major auction of Beatles memorabilia. So, it was perfect. We're in London, England. It's an auction house, and it's the Beatles. and I'm 8 years old, and I had just learned the song yesterday on the piano, about 2 weeks ago. So before that, and it was just a coincidence that I learned it. And so I saw they had, the Paul McCartney's piano, and the piano that John Lennon played on Imagine was there, and they had all this like high end memorabilia that they're auctioning off. And at first, I just couldn't resist. I just didn't know what I was there for. I walked right up to the piano, and I just started playing yesterday. And these pianos, and everything is really roped off. They don't want you to go near it. But 8 years old, I'm like 4 feet tall. I just walked right under the rope and started playing. And the next thing I realized, I'm just surrounded by a wall of media and reporters, and they're like, play it again, play it again, play it again. And then, yeah, so that was my, my musical experience. It changed my life forever.
Yeah, we were saying yesterday, yeah, Josh went viral before viral was a thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so in the comments, people are eating and drinking healthy things like fruit and tea. So I'm just going to skip that, and we're going to go straight into our first question. Josh,
Healthy's boring.
Yes, no, we're not going to. I mean, we can hang out, but like, yeah. Josh, can you please tell us, like, in one sentence, what's Janus?
So Janus is a platform that helps other businesses integrate AI into their customer experiences. So, a lot of businesses struggle with artificial intelligence. Maybe it's overwhelming, or the concepts are difficult to understand because, the technologies, it's pretty sophisticated. It's being developed by companies like Google and IBM and Microsoft. And that technology is out of reach for most businesses, for the majority of businesses. So we've taken that technology. We've started with Google's technology, and our goal is to make it more accessible to every business, to every small business. So the same technology that would be used by Domino's Pizza, which is like a major chain with a large, IT department, and they have engineers. We've taken that same technology, and we're helping the local pizzeria benefit from it in the exact same way, if not better. And the reason we're able to do that is because, we've connected a tool like Chatfuel that makes it easier for businesses to benefit from that technology. So your platform helps businesses really use the technology to understand and then manage their customers and their responses with Chatfuel. But I think it's not just about connecting to Dialogflow that we provide. We're really trying to create a new category of software that we call AI management, which is helping businesses manage a path to automation. So, businesses, they hear AI, they think, oh, it's like Siri, and they're just going to be able to immediately get a response, and the bot's going to be immediately responsive and know everything. Or they have this this Hollywood interpretation of what AI is. So it doesn't quite work that way. You have to train AI, and you have to monitor your AI, and you got to fix problems, and you got to retain your customers through that process. So that's what Janus really does, is helps manage an AI integration.
Josh, I want to get a little bit later more into that distinction between like AI and NLP, natural language processing, and all that, and kind of the time that it takes to train your bot. Because like you say, it's not just you sign up for Janus and then all of a sudden your business has this like virtual assistant Siri. But my question to you is, for people who are completely new to this AI world and kind of automating frequently asked questions, give us a practical example of how, an e-commerce brand, or for example, Domino's, a small business, pizzeria, how can they take advantage of this technology? How, at the end of the day, is it beneficial to them?
Yeah, so I think it would be kind of helpful to share my screen at this point and just use some visual guides to help explain the concept and how they can benefit from it. Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's get my screen here. Yeah, so I think it's helpful just to understand the problem that conversational AI, NLP being the type of AI that businesses can use. where we sort of saw the opportunity to help businesses benefit from it. And it really goes back into 2016. Oops. So in 2016, we saw declare that you could, chat with the business like a friend. And this was really exciting for everybody. I mean, as we were running a mobile gaming studio before the whole bot world, and we were excited about a new paradigm for software, just like everybody else, right? There's a lot of hype around it. And then these were some of the problems that we saw businesses were encountering. Why aren't users clicking our buttons, and how can we understand user input, and how can we automate our frequently asked questions? And you can do it without NLP, natural language processing. You can achieve your marketing and support automation goals, and those are the two primary use cases on Facebook, right? They're running ads. They're looking to funnel users into a lead generation flow, and then they're looking to convert the user into an appointment if you're a local business, or a transaction if you're an e-commerce business. There's some end goal. So marketing is really the sort of the jumping off point, and usually inquiries, or if you're interested in buying a product, usually you have questions, right? So if it's if you're thinking of ordering a pizza, using the Domino's example we're talking about, you might have a question about delivery, right? When can it, is there some kind of delivery guarantee, or will you deliver at all? Somebody, and so if we look at like the difference between just kind of keywords, which are an easy way to start, and you can easy to benefit from keyword automation. This is the main difference, right? So in this example, a user saying, "I'd like to order a pizza," and this guy's saying, "If I order a pizza, how long will it take?" So even though both messages contain the keywords "order a pizza," for the first person here, I would want to send them into an order process, get an order funnel, and have them, their intent is to order the pizza. But this guy, he's, if I sent him into an order flow at this point, then I'd be delivering the wrong response, because he has a question, which is really more about time. So that's what natural language processing does. It really, the main benefit is that it helps you understand the intent of the user when they send a message, and then you can deliver the right response.
And Josh, a follow-up on that, some people might make the argument that, hey, I have this bot in Chatfuel for my pizza shop, and I have, this expertly designed experience where users can click buttons, go through these different funnels for, ordering or asking questions. So to those people who might say, well, I already have this experience built out, it relies on buttons, like why should I bother responding to people who send my bot messages? What's your response to that? Why should people, the average business owner, still care about natural language and being able to respond to those questions?
Yeah, so the first part of that answer is that you need both, and you should have both. This doesn't replace your existing experience. You could craft a beautiful conversational experience with Chatfuel, and you'll have the buttons, and they're going to go to the right places if they click the buttons. But the paradigm is it's messaging, and that's when users come there. Maybe they've never used a bot before, right? Or they don't know what the buttons are for, or they just don't want to click buttons because their consumer behavior is sending messages. That's what they do. They're used to chatting, so they'll send a message, and they don't click your button. You want to be able to handle those situations too. And it really becomes critical if you're a marketer and you're spending money on customer acquisition, right? So you're paying to get a user in there. And it's really great if you can, in an ideal world, if you can initiate that conversation, and they click your buttons and they get to the end without ever typing a message. But what happens if they do? And if you lose them, then really you're wasting money, because you're paying to acquire a customer. Your goal is to have some kind of conversion on your advertising dollar and maximize your advertising dollar. So that's really what it does. Is you're not gonna be able to automate everything, But if you understand the context of where the user is in your Chatfuel experience, and you can deliver the right response to them at that time, then maybe you can get them back on track and say, oh, here's, we were talking about ordering a pizza, and then present, click one of the buttons. So you can really, they don't have to work independently of each other. They can complement each other. And just by understanding the user's message, or having some type of meaningful response or intelligent response to the user's message, you can help them get them closer to your automation goals.
I am curious too, is there any stat that you have, on hand of like the percentage of users who get to a block in Chatfuel, let's say, and even though they're presented with buttons or quick replies, the percentage of people who still respond with maybe the text of that button without clicking it? Do you have any stats on that?
What, on people?
Yeah, basically.
People. Oh, I'm saying. Yeah, I forget that there was a report that was put out by Dashbot not too long ago, which is if for those unfamiliar with Dashbot, they're a big conversational analytics platform, and they did put out a report maybe in 2017 or 18, and something like 70% of people are not clicking buttons. So it doesn't mean that I think you need buttons. Like, we use buttons in our experiences, and I think they're good because you want to guide users, right? And that's what they are. They're guides. So you can't necessarily rely on them to cover, because you're limited in the number of buttons you can use. But I think that, people might become, as people start to use bots more, or they start to use a specific bot on a recurring basis, they become familiar with the button user experience, and they realize that they are actually helpful. But it's certainly, when you're just trying to capture that lead, and you've never interacted with the user before, or they've maybe never used a bot before, that the NLP is really helpful. So on the front end, and then there's the back end. So it's really helpful for customer support and just being able to answer questions, right? And knowing the difference, whether somebody is, they're a new customer and their intent is to buy, in the case of the pizza here, or they have a question for customer support, and you can automate those too.
Yeah, I just have to interject before Andrew asks another awesome question. I just need to send a huge shout out to folks watching at 2 a.m.
Oh yeah, respect.
Yes, guys, as Billy said, late night champions award to you guys. Thank you for being with us. Feel free to post any questions you have in the chat so that we can get those answered for you.
So yeah, Josh, another question we have is, we've been talking about e-commerce, how it's beneficial to somebody like, pizzeria, who can field these questions and, like you say, convert those questions into commerce.
Yeah.
My other question is kind of a different segment of our users, which is chatbot agencies, people who are, creating bots and chat experiences for their clients. I'm curious if you have any best practices for selling NLP, for selling AI, and this technology to field questions in the bot. If you have best practices for how agencies should sell that to their clients, is it something they should even mention? Maybe they just say, "Hey, I'm going to build you this chat experience, and NLP is part of that." Or, what best practices do you have on that front?
Sure. So, I think that what I recommend agencies do is they actually have two demos. They have one demo without AI, and then they have one demo with AI. And then they can present two packages, and they can say, okay, here's what it's going to cost for us to deploy a bot for you without AI. And if you want the AI enhanced package, it's going to cost this. And so, if we use, let's say for agencies that have provided, web design and management services, as well, they could, you might sell, the web design experience, we'll build you a website, but then you would offer SEO as like an additional service. And the SEO is the service that businesses will pay top dollar for, because the hard part is really getting a business found, right? So you want to optimize the site to get the website found. We use that analogy with bots, right? It's Chatfuel is an amazing platform. It makes it easy to build a great conversational experience, but the hard part is making that responsive, building a responsive bot. And so you can charge more money from that, and you can let them compare. And it's not something that they need, right? It's a nice to have. But I would just give a phone to your customer and say, here, you try it, and you can see if which one you like, which one you prefer.
Yeah, one thing I've seen work really well, like just to add to that, is translating it into hours and resources that you're saving to your client's team, because you won't need to have 3 support people sitting down, for 8 hours a day responding to each and every lead. Those people can do something better with their time, for example.
So let's talk about that for a second. I'm going to just jump ahead. And then we can come back to the other slides. But on that thing, we talk about time, and time is money, and time is essential for an agency. And you're out there chasing clients, and you want, it's tempting to want to take any business. If somebody's willing to, build a bot, that you'll take that business, and you'll want to nurture that relationship. But really, what I like to tell people when it comes to AI, or integrating dialogue flow into a Chatfuel bot, is that it's a lot easier to focus on a niche, right? So I kind of look at it like a foundation to a conversational experience can be AI, and you build on top of that. But when you focus on a niche, it's kind of like building a foundation for an apartment building, and all of your clients are tenants in that building, and you only need to train. And you do need to train AI. That's just the reality of it. You need to understand. But when you, one of the things we do at Janus is you can connect one dialogue flow agent to multiple Chatfuel bots, and that's about to us. We see that as sort of a really important feature for an agency. All they need to do is train AI, and they can serve an entire niche, right? So in the case of e-commerce, people have the same questions. It doesn't matter what the product is, but they're interested in buying something, right? They have questions about shipping. They want to track their delivery status. They have questions about refunds. So all of those questions or messages that an e-commerce bot receives, everybody's going to receive the same questions. What's different is how you respond to those questions. So when you train AI to serve for an agency, you can serve an entire niche by investing your time in training just one dialogue flow agent. And we did that. We introduced that because we saw a lot of agencies would spin their wheels. They'd be like, oh, we're going to train AI for this client, and then we're going to train AI for this client. And if you don't want it to be this thing where it's this overwhelming process where you're not actually getting closer to your automation goals for your clients. Pick a bunch of clients that are within a niche, and then all of them can benefit from that time that you invest in improving your artificial intelligence.
And when you're talking about training the bots too, and I love this idea of kind of honing in on a specific niche or industry, because then it saves you time and ultimately the client time as well. But when it comes to training your bot, can you give any sort of time estimate on how long that takes to, let's say, answer like the majority or 90% of questions? If you're starting from that industry specific template, is it fairly simple since you already have an idea of what users are asking, or what kind of time frame does that look like in terms of training the bot?
Yeah, so the time we call it like time to value, and what is the amount of time until somebody can benefit from this technology, whether it's connecting it and getting just like how fast can you integrate the technology without hiring a developer and start benefiting from it. And if you're starting from scratch, it can take it really depends on how focused the bot is in terms of its scope of capabilities. So the more focused or the more narrow the scope, the easier it is to train. If you're trying to build a bot that's serving too broad a use case or too many different types of, informational services, or just, it's just too broad in scope, then it'll take you forever. But if you have a sort of narrow focus, and you're focused on your marketing, specific marketing goal, or your goals to automate customer support, and they say I can tell you that using our own product, using Janus, we've been able to automate nearly 70% of our customer support with using Dialogflow. And that's because that took us I'll tell you that took us about 2 years to get to that point. But the time that you spend is in that is very worthwhile, especially as you grow and you start to scale. If you can cut costs, you're going to realize significant savings at scale. So customer support is definitely something that's easily quantified. You have a set of FAQs and you can automate your FAQs. We've gone obviously much more than that, but we're focused. We have a very specific, our goal is to help businesses integrate AI. So we know what kind of questions people are going to ask when they're just getting started, and we know what type of support questions that we need to answer as well. But also, when we talk about, one more thing, just in response to that, when we talk about time to value, one of the things we've done is we've created these templates. So training takes time. Businesses need to understand, what's Dialogflow? How does it work? How do I train? So we've actually created pre-trained AI. And so what Janus does is Janus will set you up with this automatically. So Janus is a bot that gets you connected to Dialogflow and helps you get that integrated into a Chatfuel bot. And so we've created this AI starter kit for Chatfuel that'll immediately understand the most common things users say. So you can benefit immediately. And then it also provides you with a framework you can build on, like a foundation. So it just gets you much further ahead in the training process.
And I think
anyways, that's free for Chatfuel users.
And it's super powerful too, what you're doing, Josh, because for those who aren't immediately familiar or clear with what Dialogflow is Google's, AI natural language engine, and Janus allows you to plug in that, intelligence, that power into Chatfuel. But what's really cool with what you're doing is that it doesn't only allow you to integrate with Dialogflow, which is cool, but it allows you to redirect the responses back into Chatfuel. So without you having to, code or do anything like that, you as a bot admin or a bot builder can very easily customize those responses in Chatfuel too. And I think that's where the big value is, because kind of like how Chatfuel helps democratize bot building, there's no code. It's the same case with Janus.
Yeah, and it's thank you, and it's also these two products work really well to deliver what I would call delightful customer experience. So you can use Dialogflow, Google's AI, to understand and get actionable data out of messages, and I'll show you real quick how that works. And then you can respond more intelligently with that data using Chatfuel blocks. And so with the templates, like this AI starter kit that somebody can just get that for free, and Janus sets them up with that automatically. Creates their own Google AI account for them and installs these intents for them. Those are pre-built with to communicate with our Chatfuel template. So you install a Dialogflow template, and then you install our Chatfuel template, and then you can, they communicate with each other right out of the box. So you just need to edit the responses in our Chatfuel blocks, or you can copy a group of blocks over to an existing bot as well. But let me just show you real quick, how these two kind of work together, right? So these are, you can extract actionable data from messages you receive with Dialogflow. And you can see these are highlighted or annotated. And these represent possible things that users might say. So for example, in this one here, the word delivery could have different, the user might express that differently. They might say, what are your shipping options? Or what are your delivery options? Or, here, can you ship to London? So these are possible variables, right? The word ship, they might express that as, can you deliver, or can you courier, or can you UPS, or, you only need one training phrase to capture what a user might say, and then you can extract different values out of words contained inside of those messages. So here, if the user says, "Can you ship to London?" Right? Then that whatever the user says could be it could be any number of cities around the world, right? And that value gets stored in what's called as a parameter name, and a parameter name is exactly the same as a user attribute in Chatfuel. So when that value gets extracted from the message with Dialogflow, it gets automatically saved in a Chatfuel user attribute. So you can see here, if the value, you can start to use your attribute filters, and start to deliver more intelligent responses. So if the user says, do you ship to I don't know, Bangkok, Thailand, and you don't ship there, then you can respond with that. You only need one message to understand the user. So you can see how these two systems kind of work together. One allows you to understand the user's message and train the bot to understand what users might say, or use a template that will already understand common messages. And then the other system allows you to more easily take the data that you get out of those messages and create and manage more intelligent responses. And these user attributes, if what Janus does is, if they don't exist in your Chatfuel bot, Janus automatically creates them for you. So we basically help you build data-rich customer profiles just using the messages that customers send.
That's awesome. So let's go for one more quick question before we take a quick break. So if we take into account, let's say, for example, the audience that's with us today is not very technical, from what I see in the comments in our very lively chat today. So how would you explain in in a short sentence, I guess, what is your negative sentiment feature and what is it used for?
So that's one of our AI management features. So Janus is basically a bot too. So Janus, you add Janus to your Facebook page, the same Facebook page as your Chatfuel bot, and Janus essentially monitors your conversations and helps you act on everything that a user says. And one of them is monitoring every message for user sentiment. So if a user's angry or frustrated, either with your bot or with your service, then Janus will alert you. And that's a really actionable event in your conversation.
That's such a valuable tool, because you can get them while they're warm and they're not super frustrated down the
Well, that's the whole thing. You can use AI to really trigger different events in positive and negative. So if you have a warm lead, you can trigger an alert, and the user just needs to send a message. And if you understand that the intent is the user's ready to buy, then you might want an alert, so you can then jump in there right away and close that lead. And the same goes with negative sentiment, right? If Janus is automatically monitoring your bot and detects negative sentiment and alerts you, then you'll want to jump in there and take over to retain your user.
Yeah, exactly.
That lead feature would have been super useful when I mentioned earlier the whole haircut situation. If that business saw, hey, this guy wants to schedule an appointment, they could have made that sale, but they didn't. So anyway, Josh, thank you. We're going to take a quick break for recess, and then we'll see you on the other side.
Perfect.
This marks the halfway point of today's episode of Chatfuel School, so let's take a quick recess. The telephone, the automobile, the camera, modern medicine, the moon landing, digital commerce, the World Wide Web. These are the greatest achievements of our time. Behind each of them is a genius. A genius with an intolerance for mediocrity. A genius with a plan, a vision, a blueprint. Introducing Block Navigation. It's your blueprint of the customer journey. It's your blueprint for efficiency. It's your blueprint for excellence. Failing to plan is planning to fail, so plan your chat experience today with Block Navigation. Visualize where users are coming from and going to. See how all your content is connected in seconds. Block Navigation, now available to all users. Unlock your genius. All right. Thank you, everybody. So, Josh, getting back into all the questions here about Janus and what's possible with messenger automation, inevitably, I guess there's this three-step process, really. You have the Chatfuel bot with the buttons, with the menus. If that doesn't work, you have plan B, which is Janus taking over and automating the questions. But inevitably, there's also kind of the third line of defense, which is the default answer, right? The dreaded default answer, which is the fallback message it sends to the user if the bot doesn't understand. So my question is, with that default answer, what are some of the best practices that you see in terms of, redirecting a user, telling users what the bot can do, even though it couldn't help them with this specific question? So, what do you see as best strategies and solutions for that kind of fallback message? Oh, you're still on mute.
Hi, I'm here.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I think there's really there's a few best practices, and I think it's important to know that some of these tactics that you can use for conversational design aren't necessarily specific to Janus or conversational AI. They're just general best practices. But I should note that when you do connect Dialogflow or connect Janus, add Janus to your Chatfuel bot, that all messages that your bot doesn't understand go to your default reply, and then they get sort of forwarded to a Janus block. So it works with a JSON API, and Janus will process all messages that users send, because all those messages will hit your default reply. But even without that, I think that I mentioned earlier that you really want to keep some kind of focus about what your bot can do, and it's very common for people to want to send messages and just test a bot and see what it's capable of and try and break it. They'll ask questions like, about the weather, or they're just going to want to try and break it. And I think what's
It's like, come on, I'm trying to sell pizza here.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that the biggest mistake that people make when it comes to conversational design is they leave the default answer as "sorry, I don't understand that." And I think that at the very least, what you need to do is give your users a chance to rephrase their message. So typically, even if you use conversational AI, and just to set your expectations around this, is that it's good with short phrases, and it'll extract. But people tend to write, like email length messages in Messenger, and AI will not, that's probably a few years out still, that the technology is going to be that sophisticated enough. And so with AI, without AI, the best thing you can do is first ask a user to rephrase their message and to keep it short. And then if you're, still don't have a response for them, maybe your AI doesn't understand, it's still training, or you haven't, you just haven't, you're just getting started with it. A good idea is to give them a gallery of options that they can pick from. So it's like, instead of "sorry, I didn't understand," it's like, "oh, here's some things I can help you with immediately." And then you just provide them with a gallery that links to the main sort of navigational areas of your bot. So maybe that's like, getting started, support, maybe it's products, so just guide. The best thing you can do is guide the user. Yeah, and it's funny, like because Janus, because we process so many messages, and we understand the types of, like, when I tell you that people like send messages to test a bot and test its intelligence and try and break it, it's crazy some of the things that people say. But we've even pre-trained. We even have in our AI starter kit, we have a dialogue flow intent to anticipate those types of messages. So if user says, like, they're saying something that would test the bot, the bot will respond, "are you testing to see how smart I am?" So that's what I think that the best thing to do is plan for those scenarios. And even if you deliver a clever response like that, it can be delightful for the user.
If people like poking at bots when they realize there are bots, like sometimes I can remember we had this launch of a chatbot for a celebrity. I'm not allowed to say who it is. And
Yeah.
people were literally sitting down for hours and trying to get the bot to say something, out of the ordinary so that they could write an article about it later.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, listen, the bot making community has a little bit more of, it's like if we use the restaurant analogy, right? The bot making community is kind of like in the kitchen. They're in the kitchen. They understand it can be a little chaotic sometimes, and the bot's going to be able to do some things, and humans are better at other things than bots. But for the end user, the consumer, they don't know what's involved. All they know is that they're sending a message. And so, all of these things like best practices for what happens when your bot can't respond, or, being able to have actionable data so that you can, take over live and retain your users. These are all valuable strategies. There isn't, it's going to be different for every niche, but the same best practices apply.
Another shout out to John Eric, who's watching, who says they just hit 12,000 subscribers with Chatfuel, and it would be impossible to manage without Janus and Slack. So they're sending love for the integration.
Nice. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, no, that's great.
Josh, another quick follow-up in terms of best practices and the default answer. Is there any best advice you have on after how many times the bot isn't able to provide an answer that you connect them with a live agent? I know not all bot builders are using live chat in their bot, but is it something like, hey, after the bot not being able to respond twice, you connect them with a live agent, or any general rule of thumb there?
Yeah, so it's interesting, the general rule. One of the things I wrote about not too long ago is what I call the 3 strikes rule. And if you think of it, I love analogies. So we can look at baseball as an analogy. The 3 strikes rule is the user sends one message and your bot doesn't understand it. So that could be for any number of reasons that it doesn't understand it. So you can ask them, that's strike 1. You can ask them to rephrase their message. Strike 2, they may send another message. I would give your automation one more chance there, and then say, I think we're getting closer, or just to help them understand, just give them, maybe ask them something else, like just to rephrase it, or maybe you're able to get some piece of information out of that message that helps you get closer, more like a kind of progressive understanding of what they want. And then the 3rd strike is, if you still don't understand at that point, then actually you don't have to automatically escalate them to a human, but just ask them, say, I'm still having trouble. Be upfront that it's a bot, right? So that's a big mistake that people make. You want to be clear about what the bot can do and what it can't do. And I would do that as early as possible in your experience. So when they do encounter that, I'm sorry, I don't understand, it doesn't look like the business is, incompetent, but it just, the bot can be like, oh, I'm still in training, or I'm just learning some new things. Would you like me to connect you with a human at that point? And if they say yes, then you can escalate it. But if they say no, then that's when you can load that block that says, oh, well, here are some things I can help you with immediately. So it's really just, even you can turn a negative, what could potentially be a negative experience, into a positive one by just paying attention to those details and making it delightful. But I can tell you that if your default answer is, I'm sorry, I don't understand, or I'm just a bot, or whatever, and it ends there, then I think that's going to be, that's not a strategy. I think that's going to be sustainable. So get creative, and it's okay to sort of make fun of yourself too. People will appreciate that. When I mean make fun of yourself, I mean make fun of the bot making fun. You get it.
Always blame the robots.
Yeah.
Another kind of strategic or higher level question here, but I think it's worth asking because I always interchangeably use the phrases, words, acronyms, whatever you want to call them, AI and NLP. Maybe there's not that much of an important difference, but to the average person, what's the distinction between AI and NLP, or to the average person, does it really not make much of a difference?
Yeah, I mean, look, AI just sounds it sounds sexy. NLP doesn't, and NLP is actually, it's more of a bot maker term. I wouldn't encourage an agency to use NLP in their pitch. It's really natural language processing, the short being NLP, is the type of AI. It's conversational AI, and that's the type of technology that, whether it's Google or Microsoft, or that's the technical distinction. But I wouldn't use that in a pitch if you're an agency. And for everybody else, it's really just like a category of conversational AI. And yeah, but there's all different types of AI.
So AI is kind of like the house, and then NLP, which is, a sub part of AI, is kind of like a room within the house.
Yeah, like AI, and then we would call it conversational AI, and then at the same level, conversational AI today is really natural language processing. So it's just a different, different way to refer to the same thing.
And on the note of agencies, one other thing to mention that I think is worthwhile is, when agencies are selling this, smarter version of the bot, I think it's worth noting that, we always tell agencies like, hey, build the bot, charge a one-time fee for that. But then, if you want to make a retainer, then continually, every month, keep updating it, iterating it, improving it. And I think you can also apply that same framework into the, Janus integration that you're using, AI or NLP, to use what we were just talking about.
Yeah, just to add here, I'm sorry, there were some questions in the comments about how to price your bot building services. We actually have a few really cool videos. One of them is a full-blown long webinar on our YouTube channel. So feel free to check those out for additional tips apart from what people already shared in the comments.
That's great. And so that exactly. So you've got Andrew, in response to both of those things, you've got like a pricing strategy for building a Chatfuel bot, right? This is what it's going to cost. Here's what we're going to do for you. And when it comes to AI, that's like a value-added service, and you're going to say, here's what the AI package looks like. And with the AI package, you might charge them a setup fee. So you're going to need to, maybe there's a template that you have, and you can take our templates and well, you can't resell the templates on their own, but you can resell them as part of a package. That's part of what we provide as our value-added service. So, so you might charge a setup for that, but really, this is an opportunity to make significantly more money as an agency, because training AI is an ongoing process. And like I said before, it took us 2 years to automate nearly 70% of our own customer support for Janus. And so you can build that as a service, just like you would bill for SEO services, and maybe set some goals. Maybe the goal is, okay, in 6 months, we want to automate, try and automate 20% of our incoming messages, or, and be realistic about it. You don't want to oversell it and be like, well, with AI, you're going to automate everything, or you're going to automate 80 or 90%. Like, it's important to set the client's expectations up front about what the technology can do and what it can't do, so they don't think it's like this Hollywood movie, or Black Mirror on or on Netflix. Or it's just set realistic expectations, set some attainable goals, and then keep billing for services to hopefully get closer to those goals. And sometimes it's the little things that'll delight your customers, and they'll be like, okay, well, we didn't get to that goal as quickly as we would have liked, but we're seeing that it's helping to convert. Or, in the case of Janus, sort of as a value-added service on top of Dialogflow, where, the sentiment analysis helping us take over. Or, we can pause AI directly in the Facebook inbox, and that's helpful because, for whatever reason.
So we've had kind of scattered tips on how to make your bot smarter that are not necessarily these huge projects and huge things that you need to do. So we mentioned, don't make your default answer, I don't understand, I'm sorry. Make sure in the welcome message, your bot says, I'm a bot, I'm not a person. That is actually one of our best practices that we always recommend to all chatbot builders. Use one of the available, free templates with Janus with pre-trained, data and everything.
Yeah.
So, but if you could suggest one thing to our audience that they can do right away to make their bot smarter, what would it be?
Oh, it would be, let me show you. I'll just show you real quick.
Go to Janus.AI and find out.
I was just going to say, I wanted to, you read my mind.
Josh is so
you don't even have to go to Janus.
shameless.
Just go to the Chatfuel dashboard, click templates, and get the Janus template. See, and then you'll get all of our pre-trained response blocks, and then you'll get an instruction to take you to Janus and install the other half, which is the dialog flow tense. And they communicate with each other. So if there's one thing that I would tell you, it's start with our Chatfuel template, use our AI starter kit, because you'll at least get value out of the technology at no cost, and pre-trained AIs from free. And then if you want to learn and you want to take it to the next, you want to invest more time in it, we've built out a whole user guide for Chatfuel users, and that's available at Janis.AI/Chatfuel. Or feel free to mention me in your Chatfuel in the community. I like getting right in there and listening to customers and understanding their pain points and providing solutions.
Yes, Josh is one of our most regular, most engaged users in the community.
Yes, and we appreciate all of your contributions there. Josh, another question. Earlier you mentioned, one of the misconceptions that people have about NLP or using Janus is that, now suddenly my bot will be able to respond to everything. And as you said, for you, it took 2 years to really work up to successfully respond to a lot of questions. I'm wondering what other, big misconceptions are there about NLP that you encounter from your customers?
I think that's a good question. I mean, I think it's really just about having realistic expectations about what the technology can do and what it can't do. And that's why we invest so much in education, and we're active in these communities, and is because it's really, education is a big pain point for us. And it begins with understanding everything from, what is it? How do I get started? How do I connect? And what kind of expectations should I have around the technology? Like our templates, they're designed, maybe you can automate like even a few percent immediately. But it's all about, misconception. I would answer it with that you have to think of it more like a path. And this is a graphic that I often share, is this, where you're going to be more hands-on at first, right? And you can see my screen, okay?
Yep. Yeah. If you want to go full screen,
you're going to be more hands-on at first. You're going to be, training your AI and taking over live to retain your customers, training your AI to learn from those conversations, but just be patient with it. And over time, you'll start to see, it took us a while, but you can get to 20 or 30% in a few months. It's how do you go from that like 30% to 70%? That's where it gets, you just need a large sampling of data to be able to do that. You need to add, when it comes to a dialogue flow intent, you don't just need a few messages. You need at least, 15 or 20 messages so that the AI can really understand what the intent of the user is. So add lots of training phrases, use lots of entities. Those were those variables to get values. So if you set it up properly as a foundation, then you can scale that over time. That's what I would encourage you, is take the time to set it up. Okay.
Yeah. So you're training your AI, you're doing all of your things, your chatbot is doing its thing. What is the best way, in your opinion, to measure success?
It's It's a deep philosophical life question.
Yes.
How do you measure success? Yeah, it's success is going to be different for every business. It really depends on what your goals are. And so if your goals are, you want to reduce the number of, think about the problem that you're trying to solve. The problem is marketing, and you've got a funnel, and you don't want users, you want users to click your buttons, but they're not clicking your buttons. Then, what's your conversion with AI, and how, and are you, do you have people getting to the end of your goal, right? So with customer support, if that's the use case, right? How do you measure that? Well, your goal should be, we want to automate, maybe 50% of our FAQs. So do that. Look at how many, you can probably set attributes that track every time the user hits the default reply. And with Janus, you can we have, I think both Chatfuel and Janus has integrations with Dashbot. So they're an integration partners of ours. And I know you guys have been building some analytics too. So use those tools. I mean, that's what they're for. They give you data so you can make data-driven decisions. But depending on the use case, set some attainable goals, and that would be the way to go.
Data is definitely, go ahead, Jelena.
Yeah, so you said a goal can be your bot handling 50% of the frequently asked questions. And we have John Eric in the comments saying their bot handles 70% of their 10,000 customers automatically because of the integration. So I would say we defined success here.
Bravo.
I said this to you before. I was just going to say one thing before we did this live, which is, a lot of our time, there's a lot of Janus users are seeing measurable success like that, and yet we don't know because we've automated our entire customer experience. So it's great to hear that. Thank you for sharing that.
And one last question for you, Josh, before we wrap things up. So 60 seconds or less. What do you see as the future of NLP in Messenger?
I think that there's the future of NLP in Messenger. Well, I think, look, there's different types of NLP. I think Facebook has their own NLP. Dialogflow has their own NLP, or Google, that's Dialogflow. I think those are still, it's an ongoing process. I think that we're really going to, you'll see benefits over time. The technology will continue to improve. The big companies like Google are continuously investing in the technology, right? So it's only going to get better. People are only going to continue to use Messenger for conversations. And if you're an agency, you can assure your customers that too. Like, you can use companies like Google in the pitch itself. It helps add some extra layer of validation that oh, it's Google AI. So yeah.
Awesome. I think this has been very useful for everyone involved, because Andrew and I were talking yesterday about how we don't feel like we're entirely familiar with Janus as much as we would want to be. And we got the opportunity to ask Josh all these cool questions. And what I really love is that you guys actually have a great documentation that's very detailed and where you can find, everything you want to know. So for anyone who was here tonight and you didn't get the chance, or you didn't come up with a question that you wanted to ask, feel free to go to Janus documentation, and I'm guessing you're going to find everything you need right there. So before we sign off for today, I was going to say tonight because it's 9 p.m. here, so I go straight to evening. I would just like to invite everyone to visit us next week as well. We will have Rutger, an expert bot builder, with us, who is awesome when it comes to creating a pre and post purchase experience that will ensure your customers keep coming back and keep purchasing for you. And we all know that it's much cheaper to keep an old customer than acquire a new one. So same time, same place.
Also a Janus user too, Rutger.
There we go. We share him.
I love it. Okay.
He's the man, the myth, and the legend. So yeah, the link to get a reminder for this class next week, obviously on your screen and also
In the chat.
on YouTube. Yep. So everybody, thank you so much. Join us next week, same time, same place for another episode of Chatfuel School, and happy botting.